Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Home Ground. I'm so happy to be here. And if I've done my counting right, which is a big if, I think this is episode number 10. So we're officially into double digits, and that is so exciting to me because I just didn't really know what this was going to be. And not that it's anything like massive, but I'm just, again, having fun and happy to be here. So today it's just me again. My schedule has been so busy lately, and honestly, it's going to be sort of through like the end of the year. So I'm going to try to have like friends and guests come on more because I find that more entertaining, but also my schedule is so crazy that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Maybe once we get into like November, I'll be able to do that. But anyway, today is just another kind of like grab bag episode of just kind of like updates of what is going on in women's soccer. And there's so much happening. The NWSL played their second to last regular season games this past weekend. I'm recording on Monday this week because I wanted to watch the NWSL games over the weekend before I did this. So they played their second to last regular season game. It is now officially international break. So I'll touch on that a little bit, some of the teams that I follow and what's going on there. We had the second match day of Champions League. So that was really exciting. And then there were other just like league games, cup games that happened sort of across Europe that we might touch on a little bit of that. Unfortunately, the only conversation I can think about right now with the women's game is the amount of injuries that are happening. I swear every time I open my phone, I'm just getting an update about somebody's injury, a new injury from somewhere. And it's awful and I hate it. And I don't know what can be done about it because clearly we know it's a problem and they are doing research, but it just takes time to understand what's causing these kinds of things. So, yeah, I know we did a little bit of an injury watch last week, so I'm not going to go over all of those same things. But I do just want to talk about some of the injuries that have occurred, and it's a long list since the last time I recorded. So let's just get started. So the first one that I want to talk about is Liana Joseph. I'm sure that's not how she pronounces her name. And I apologize in advance that I don't speak every language that these incredibly talented women come from. So I will probably butcher some of their names. I'm going to do my best. But Liana Joseph, she's a 19-year-old who plays for Lyon, and she tore her ACL in their match against Arsenal in the first week of Champions League. I didn't know that at the time that I recorded the last episode, so very unfortunate for her. Wishing her all the best. A Liverpool player, Marie Hobinger, who's Austrian, also tore her ACL. Awful for her as well. Really, really hate that. Unfortunately, there are several ACL tears that have happened in the past like week and a half, and it actually like turns my stomach. I feel gross about it. Manuela Zinsberger, who is a goalkeeper for Arsenal, tore her ACL at practice. She's also Austrian. Ridiculously sad for her. She is a heartbeat player for Arsenal. She is the first player cheering. She's the most excited. She's the most passionate. And so I'm really, really devastated for her. On a similar note of goalkeepers for Arsenal, Daphne Van Dumselaar pulled out of national team camp. I don't know if she has like a real injury. She said it was because of like fitness issue. So I don't know if they're trying to just like bubble wrap her. Netherlands is just playing friendlies. So I don't know if Arsenal is just like trying to bubble wrap her or if she's trying to bubble wrap herself to stay healthy for Arsenal. I don't know exactly what's going on there. If you're a U.S. women's national team fan, you are very much aware that there was a big scare with Trinity Rodman. She went down in like a weekday cup game that like didn't matter. So the fact that she was playing, again, like what are we gonna do? Tell these players like not to play? That's it's their job. But there was some conversation about like whether she actually needed to be playing or not. But she went down and then she was like on crutches in this like huge knee brace, and it very much everyone was fearing for the worst. Turns out she just has an MCL sprain and is only supposed to be out for like a couple of weeks. They're talking like 3-ish weeks, which as the NWSL looks into the playoffs, I guess there's like a chance she could be back down the line in playoffs, maybe for like the semis or the final. Also, U.S. women's national team, a little bit of a worry. Emily Fox went down in the game against Benfica, Champions League game last I guess Thursday, and that was scary because she was like limping pretty strongly. Turns out it was just like a knock to the shin, and she's reportedly fine. She wasn't like in a boot. Arsenal didn't report her like pulling out of national team camp. US Women's national team hasn't said anything about that either. So hopefully she's fine. Steph Catley also went down in that game and was subbed out at basically the same time as Emily Fox. It was towards the end of the game. Not exactly sure what happened there or what's going on with her. Nobody has said that she pulled out of national team camp, but the picture she was posting online, people were saying it looked like she was back in Australia. And Australia is not meeting in Australia for this camp. Maybe she's not going to national team camp. Not sure. To be determined on the Steph Catley. But in a Instagram dump that she did, she posted a picture of her leg and just like how bruised it was. And it's easy for those of us who like aren't professional athletes, professional soccer players, to forget just how like brutal it is on these women's bodies. So hopefully she is like healing well from those bruises. And then if there's anything else going on, both with her mental health and with her physical health, that she is doing well. There's that. Sarah Zadrazil is a Bayern player. She tore her ACL. She's also Austrian. So that is three Austrian players who have torn their ACL in the past like 2 weeks, which is so awful. They all play for different clubs. So it's not like they were all on Austrian team duty and we can like look directly at that. Like, and Austria didn't play in the Euros. And so it's just, it's hard to say this is like an overuse thing. And it potentially still is. Like, who am I to say that it's not? But it's not like we have a bunch of like England or Spain or Italy or who is the Germany players going down who are like at the Euros and like made it really far into the Euros. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about all of this. There was also this weekend, and I haven't actually heard an update on this, but Temwa Chawinga, who plays for the Kansas City Current, went down on an off the ball injury, which is almost never a good thing, and required like a wheelchair after the game or like to get to the locker room. So that's really worrying. I'm very, very much watching to hear about that. Merle Froms is a goalie for Real Madrid. She has a PCL injury and will be out for multiple weeks, potentially months. I actually don't know what the time frame on that is. So that's not great. One that I'm like potentially the saddest about, and that's like not fair because I'm sad for all of these women, but I was watching this game and you could just tell that she knew it in the moment. Lena Oberdorf, who also plays for Bayern, you would be familiar with her on this podcast because I've talked multiple times about how she's back with Bayern and playing, and that's so exciting to see after she was out for like, I don't know, a year with an ACL tear. She tore her right ACL again, which is the same leg that she had torn her ACL in the last time. The first time she did it, she tore like her ACL, her MCL. She like her knee essentially exploded. This time, I believe it's just an ACL. To say just an ACL is crazy, but I believe it is only an injury to the ACL, not these other things as well. But I cannot imagine coming back from an injury like that only to like months later do the same thing on the same leg. I think I saw online it had been like 15 months between the two. Like, oh, my heart goes out to her because that is tragic. And to know so closely and so intimately what that recovery process is like, and then to just have to turn around and do it immediately again on the same leg is just, it's so cruel. Like the world is so cruel. But hopefully her Bayern teammates have her. There's been a lot of posting on social media for her, and so really sending her all the best. Also on the Bayern front, Tuva Hansen went down with an ankle injury after subbing into the game on Sunday and had to be taken off. She was like non-weight bearing on that. So she is out for several weeks with an ankle injury. Not good. The other person we should talk about is Gio. And I actually don't know Gio's last name. She's Brazilian. She goes by Gio, who plays for Real Madrid. And no, she doesn't play for Real Madrid. She plays for Atletico Madrid and went down in the game against Man United in match day 2 of the Champions League, in which the Man United defender like went in for a challenge and ended up breaking Gio's fibula, maybe whatever. She broke her ankle. It was a very like controversial situation of whether it should have been a red card or not. I think now that we have other camera angles on it, it seems like it was a pretty clear red card. But at the time that it was reviewed, the camera angle that they used to like confirm it felt like a weird camera angle and you couldn't quite see what was going on. Anyways, um, so Gio is out with a broken ankle and will be recovering from that. Atletico Madrid player. And then two more players I want to talk about. I told you it was a long list and it's awful. Eva Payor went down and it looked awful. Like all over the internet, it was like Eva Payor, likely ACL, like it was everywhere. By the grace of God, she did not do her ACL. She does have some sort of like injury to a part of the knee that I've actually not heard of and don't really know. But she's estimated to be out for about 6 weeks. But luckily, she skirted the sort of ACL, MCL, PCL kind of injury. And it's some sort of like posterior part of the knee, but I don't actually know. But she'll be out for 6 weeks. So obviously, that's not good, but all things considered, what we thought it was, that's a better option. And then finally, Patri Guijarro has a stress fracture on her right foot, and she will be out for at least 12 weeks, they said, those are both huge losses for Barcelona. This is something that I'm really keeping an eye on because of just sort of like squad depth and fitness. So this is something that am worried about for Barcelona, and I hope that this doesn't indicate like a start of a trend that's happening for them. And hopefully they can just get healthy and everybody can get back to it. So that rounds out my list of the injured players that I want to talk about. There, I'm sure, are more that I missed. There are a couple that we'll mention who are out of like international duty just for like knocks here or there that are not supposed to be or thought to like not be serious. And so, with as many players as we had to talk about, I didn't include all of them there, but some of them will come up as we talk through the different national teams. But before we do that, I want to talk about retirements. There have been would also feel like so many retirements. Again, I feel like every time I open my phone, somebody new is retiring. Many of them were just retiring from international duty and have not yet retired like completely from professional football. But there are a few that I want to mention. First of which is Millie Bright. She pulled herself out of contention for the Euros and has just decided since then that, what she is calling it time on her England days. And she seems, I don't know, at peace with it. I don't think is quite accurate, but she seems, confident in her decision and that it's the best thing for her. And so I wish her all the best. She had a huge impact on the game. She is the only England player to ever have captained her team to a World Cup final. That is incredible. To captain your team at the World Cup is just insane. Everybody has just the best things to say about her time at England. She was a center back, but also when they were desperate, sometimes they would throw her up front because she's tall and could sometimes pull out a miracle goal. And so she will be very much missed on the international stage. She seemed very clear that she was still going to be playing at Chelsea and that she was excited to bring her focus to Chelsea. So I'm very excited for her on that front and a little bit scared as somebody who is not rooting for Chelsea, but I am, rooting for individuals to do what's best for them. So good on Millie Bright. Another player who has called it time on the international stage is Jess Fishlock. She played for Wales. She scored the first Welsh goal at an international tournament or at a major international tournament. And you can tell how much she has meant to Wales. You can tell how much Wales has meant to her and playing for the Welsh national team, how important that has been for her. So I'm sad that she's retiring from the international stage because I think she's fun and brilliant and brought so many people to the sport. She plays for the Seattle Reign. She is one of two remaining players that have played players who are still playing who have been on every single season of Seattle Reign and sort of all of its iterations that it's gone through since 2013 when it was founded. She has not called it entirely on professional soccer. Seems like maybe she's planning to play one more season if she remains healthy. And so, yeah, just sad to see Jess Fishlock go as well. It's always sad to see people go, but what she has meant to that country and what she was able to achieve over the summer with Wales is just really cool. Another player who has called it time on the international stage is Sharita Spitza, I think is how you say that. I don't know. She is from the Netherlands, incredibly prolific career for the Netherlands, and has decided to call it time on that. And so the game will miss her. She is a prolific goal scorer, just threat that the Netherlands have had for many, many years. And so again, she has left the game in such a better spot than where she found it. And so um excited for her to see what's next. And then there are three players who I want to talk about, all NWSL players who have called it time, are retiring from professional soccer. And the first person I'll start with is Lauren Barnes, Lulu Barnes. She plays for the Seattle Reign. She, with Jess Fishlock, they are the last two this season who have been at every season of the Seattle Reign. They were there also with Megan Rapinoe when Pino retired. At the end of the 2023 season, she had been there for all of the Seattle Reign seasons. And then she obviously retired. And now Lulu Barnes is retiring. So it just leaves Jess Fishlock, obviously, who we were just talking about. And so it's just to see OGs like that of the league retire is just, we're starting to see this sort of like changing of the guard. And I don't love it. I wish all of them the best as they move along. But this generation of players has done so much for the sport that it's really, really bittersweet to see them go. But it's time for them to rest. They have done so much. And so if they're ready to rest, who am I to ask them not to? The next two players are why I'm wearing my Angel City jersey today. This is from their sort of inaugural season. This is a Christen Press jersey. She announced that she is retiring at the end of the season. Technically, there's still one game left of the season, and so she theoretically could play in that. But her retirement celebration was yesterday, on Sunday, as it was Angel City's last home game. And just what Christen Press has meant to this sport has been absolutely incredible. She was integral to the equal pay lawsuit. And if you don't know about the role that she played, I would really, really encourage you to look into it. She's also integral for fighting for better treatment in the NWSL. She was treated incredibly horrifically throughout her career at some of the different clubs that she played on. When the Yates report came out, she was outspoken and instrumental in getting changes implemented and making sure people were held accountable and that none of this was happening again. And so just the way that she has pushed soccer forward in the United States, which I would argue is pushing the sport forward in terms of like women's soccer, it's pushing the sport forward across the world, has just been absolutely incredible. She did a retirement episode on her podcast, the recap show with her wife, Tobin Heath. So would highly suggest that you watch that just to see what she has to say about her own career. The way that she speaks is just so interesting. She has pushed the boundaries of this game start to finish, just one of the most prolific goal scorers in US women's national team history. Maybe not the most number of goals, as her role on the national team was a really interesting one, but just everyone who talks about her, they just say you knew when Press got the ball that she was going to make something happen. She was there to score goals, and she did that for the team. And so she has a record like 11 goals of the week honors, yeah, from the NWSL, which is like the most of any player. So she's one of a kind. She's special. She has done so much for this sport. And I cannot wait to see what she continues to do in retirement. Her whole brand that she and Tobin have together is all about reimagining women's sports through this sort of like female lens and how we can push boundaries and fight for each other. And it's just so cool. So I imagine she's going to continue to be making a big impact. So that's very exciting. And then the last player I want to talk about is Allie Riley, also plays for Angel City. She was the club's first ever captain and has been their captain for 4 years, all 4 years that the club has existed. She had some sort of like muscle nerve injury that kept her out of the 2024 Olympics. She plays for the New Zealand national team and actually has been fighting to recover from that injury. She was on the season-ending injury list this season until about, I don't know, a month ago. And then she announced sort of shortly after she got off the season-ending injury list that this would be her last season. She made her first appearance of the season yesterday in her last ever game at BMO, and it was just very, very sweet. Allie Riley, again, is somebody who has pushed the game forward in such meaningful ways. What she has done for the New Zealand Black Ferns is just so cool. And you'll remember she has one of the most like iconic pictures, I think, from the World Cup. New Zealand won their first ever game at a World Cup and there was the whole controversy about being able to wear the like rainbow armband because the men couldn't wear it in Qatar or wherever their World Cup was for, I'm using air quotes, equality's sake. The women weren't allowed to wear it in the Australia New Zealand hosted World Cup, which is just so ridiculous. Everyone knows it's ridiculous. But Allie Riley instead had her fingernails painted. One hand was in rainbow and the other hand was in pink and blue for like trans flag. There's this picture of her and she's just like overcome with emotion and she has both of her hands like on her face and you can see her fingernails and the way that they're painted. And so of course she like couldn't wear the pride armband, but she definitely had it there. She is like the biggest ally, so outspoken. She and her husband Lucas are both like very big supporters of the community and the inclusivity of women's soccer. And so it's hard to see players like that retire because they have just been so impactful. But again, like they get to rest. They've done more than enough, more than they ever should have had to do. And so I wish all of these players nothing but the best in their retirement. Can't wait to see what this next chapter looks like for them. Allie Riley is slated to be helping with, I don't know why I said helping. I'm just getting paid, I'm sure, but is going to be joining the team doing the CBS team covering the Champions League from the US. And so I'm so excited about that. I think she'll be great. She and Kelly O'Hara are literally best friends. Kelly O'Hara was part of her family that she invited to be like on the field with her celebrating her retirement. They were roommates at Stanford. Like they're just besties. And so I think that dynamic's going to be really fun. So yeah, I'm excited about what the next chapter is going to look like for her. And I doubt she'll be going too far from the game, which is really exciting for all of us. Okay, moving on, talking a little bit about the national teams as this is the international break. So there will be no league play this coming weekend. No games for like club. There are all kinds of international friendlies, and it is the Nations League semifinals are happening in this window. So there's a lot still going on, plenty of soccer to be watching, nobody fear. But of course, I'm going to start by talking about the U.S. Women's National Team, my favorite national team. It is a 26-player roster. Only 23 players will be able to dress. They are playing 3 games, which most other teams are only playing 2, but they're squeezing in a third. They are playing Portugal on the 23rd, Portugal on the 26th, and then New Zealand on the 29th. So that's very exciting. I love getting to watch U.S. Women's National Team play. This roster, I wasn't super shocked by. I felt like it was relatively predictable. What was so exciting for everyone was that Trinity Rodman was back, named in this roster for the first time in a while because she had been rehabbing from that back injury. Unfortunately, she is no longer going to be at camp because of this knee MCL sprain. But again, it everyone thought it was so much worse. I think she thought that it was potentially so much worse. So, although it is very unfortunate that she's missing out on this camp, hopefully she'll be back very soon. Jaden Shaw is back in the senior team. The last 2 camps, she was called up to the under 23 roster. So it's exciting to see her back. Since she's been at Gotham, she has slotted in very, very well for them and has really been showing why she is like that girl. And so I'm excited to see her back and see how that dynamic works out. Interestingly, no Corbin Schrader on this roster or the under 23 roster, which I think is a shock for everyone. At least it was a shock for me. That's kind of the only shock that I had this camp because she's been playing very well for Lyon, but there are some issues like personal belief issues that don't mesh well with the U.S. Women's national team. I think that there were efforts made to like help her come along, and I don't know that I don't really see any other reason for her to be left off of this roster and the under 23s roster. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But especially she like had a hat trick for Lyon recently. Like she's playing very well. She's starting for them. But if your attitude and I don't know, presence in the team throws everything off, then like sorry. So that's interesting. I don't actually know anything about that. Sam Meza was on this roster. She unfortunately has like I think I was gonna say hamstring injury. I might be making that up. I cannot keep all these injuries straight. Anyways, she has a knock and had to pull out of camp. And so she was replaced by Lo LaBonta out of Kansas City, which I just love Lo. She's our Selly queen. She's so entertaining to watch. She got her first call up at the last camp and was just like so outspokenly overjoyed about it. She's worked so hard for so long. She got her first cap, so I'm excited to see what happens with her. And I think her getting called in instead of Corbin Schrader is also really interesting. So yeah, just like gives us some insight, I think, into like what Emma Hayes is thinking and where Corbin falls. So there's that. There are several players that are missing that are still out with injury. We haven't gotten an update on Tiernan Davidson in a while, but hopefully we can get an update on how she's progressing in her rehab soon. Andy Sullivan hopefully is starting to get back to training again after she had a baby. She tore ACL and had a baby. So hopefully Sophia Smith officially had her baby. And so hopefully she will at a time that is appropriate. Please do not think that I'm trying to rush these women back, but hopefully she will be back training relatively soon, and we'll see her with the U.S. Women's National Team after she gets back into form. And so there's a lot of exciting things going on with the U.S. Women's National Team right now. I'm really excited to see what happens. I think I'm intrigued to see what Emma Hayes does with the goalkeepers because I think Fallon Tullis-Joyce is like leaps and bounds better than any of the other goalies that we have right now in the U.S. Women's National Team pipeline. She is like standing on her head for Man United. She has just been playing so, so well. And I just love the gal. I think she's the coolest. I'm excited to see her. We'll see how many games she plays. There's been a rotation happening, but then Fallon played like the two games in the last camp she was called into, but then we found out that Emma wasn't calling any of the European players into the last camp. So then it was like, well, maybe was she only doing that so that she could see her more because she knew she wouldn't be at the next camp? Like we weren't really sure about that. So I'm intrigued to see what happens there. Big fan of Fallon. Just a cool gal. So we'll see what happens there. Next national team I want to talk about is the Lionesses, which obviously I spent my summer being the world's biggest Lioness fan. I am still a fan, but the U.S. Women's National Team is back front and center because the next major tournament is the World Cup. And so the U.S. Women's National Team should be playing in that. There is no reason for them to not be. Whereas, like the Euros, obviously they weren't going to be playing, so I had to pick a new team. Anyways, the Lioness squad, I wasn't overly surprised by. It is mostly the Euros squad, although there are 4 players who are out with injury. Leah is still out with the knee that she had surgery on after like an issue that happened, I guess, in the Euros final. Lauren Hemp is still out recovering with that ankle injury. Lauren James is also still recovering from her ankle injury. So none of them were called in. Grace Clinton was called into camp, but she pulled out of camp due to a hamstring issue. So she is not there. There were some exciting things that I saw on here, especially as an Arsenal fan, some things that I want to call out. So Taylor Hines got her first senior team call-up, which is really interesting because she had played through the England youth teams, camps, whatever, but then 2 years ago had decided that she was going to play for the Jamaican national team because she was eligible to do that and just had like a better chance of being called up for them. So she did go to, I think, only one Jamaican camp. Maybe I made that up. She has not been to any of Jamaica's camps in 2025. And our understanding is that this has been in the works to get her called up to the senior team, but there's like paperwork they have to fill out with FIFA and all of these things. People were wondering, well, if she played with Jamaica, how can she even play for England? Like, isn't she committed? No, you don't get like tied to a specific national team until you've played a certain number of games in a major tournament. I saw somewhere online that it was just one game in a major tournament. The research I had done a couple of years ago was that you have to play 3 games in a major tournament, but I'm not exactly sure. Either way, Taylor Hines was not tied to Jamaica. She had just accepted call-ups from them, or a call-up at least from them, and then now has decided to come back and play with England. I'm very excited about that. I think some people were frustrated that she just now got called up when she was like the captain of Liverpool before. Now she plays for Arsenal. People are like, oh, she like sits the bench for Arsenal, which she like doesn't really. She started in the Champions League game, both Champions League games, actually, I think. And she's gotten minutes in almost every game. I don't know if she and Katie McCabe have been kind of like splitting time. I think Katie's gotten a little bit more time. Anyways, she's playing at Arsenal, but I think this was in the works like while she was still at Liverpool. I think this probably started like towards the beginning of the year that they were going to be interested in her for the next cycle and got that sort of moving. So that's interesting there. The other really exciting one as an Arsenal fan, which now is like, I guess a little bit less exciting, but Katie Reed got her first call up to the senior team. She's 19, but she has been starting as center back for Arsenal this season as Leah Williamson has still been out. She has started most of the games. Lada Wubamoy has started 2 of the games. Katie has started all the other ones. But Katie was unavailable on Thursday when they played Benfica because she had like tightness in her groin, I think is what they said. And I was wondering if she had pulled out to try to get fit and like remain fit for the camp. And I think that's probably what happened. But she pulled out of the camp today is when it was announced. Really sad for her that she doesn't get her first like camp right now. The girl's gonna have so many opportunities. She is fabulous. She's playing so well for Arsenal, and I'm excited to see what, ends up happening for her. Lucia Kendall is a midfielder who plays, I think, for Aston Villa, and now I have forgotten because it's the end of a work day, but she got her first call up. So that's very, very exciting for her. Intrigued to see what Serena does with that. And then because Katie Reed pulled out, Grace Fisk was called up for her first senior camp. So that is very exciting. And I think she's the new Liverpool captain since Taylor Hines is gone. So I'm really excited for her. First call ups are always so exciting. I'm very unfamiliar with her, just excited to see what happens there. Yeah. They're playing Brazil in the Finalisma, and then they're playing Australia, which I think will be very fun. Those are 2 of my favorite teams, and it's like a World Cup 2023 rematch. Really different squads. The Lioness squad is quite different, just injury and retirements. I don't actually know how different the Australian squad is, but we'll just go see what happens. But the Australia thing that I want to talk about is that Sam Kerr is back. She is back in camp, and it's just so exciting. I know she was like training with the team at the last camp, but she wasn't like officially back with them yet. She hadn't had any game time, was like not game ready at all, but now she is like fully back. I'm intrigued to see what they do with the captaincy with Steph Catley. I'm also intrigued to see if Steph Catley goes to camp as like I said previously, some people were saying maybe she's in Australia. But I do think her grandmother recently passed away, so she might have like gone home for a funeral, and then is just gonna like meet them at camp like a little bit later. I don't know, and I shouldn't speculate. That's not a good thing to do. Again, I hope Steph Catley is taking care of herself in whatever capacity she needs, but I am intrigued to see what happens with the captaincy there. If Steph keeps it, if it goes back to Sam Kerr. So we'll see what happens there. Courtney Vine is also back. She had like taken a step away from the national team after the World Cup in 2023. If anybody watched the World Cup, you'll know that Courtney Vine scored the game-winning penalty against France. Like, she is so iconic for it. And then honestly didn't want that. She didn't want to be known for that. She was like the 10th penalty taker. Like, she was all the way down the list and just really struggled sort of with her mental health following that for the past sort of like 2 years. It's my understanding from some of my Australian sources. So I'm excited to see her back. She plays with the North Carolina Courage, but her game time has been like relatively limited, but hopeful that she is back feeling like herself and is taking care of herself and doing exactly what she needs for herself. So the other thing that I'm watching on the Australia front is who their starting goalkeeper is going to be because I think that's really interesting. They have two great options. I think people had thought that Tegan Micah was going to be kind of taking Mackenzie Arnold's spot when Mackenzie, towards the end of last season at West Ham, she wasn't in great form, but then she moved to Portland and honestly has been playing quite well for Portland, has had a couple of saves of the week, I think. Just overall, I think she's getting back to like the Mackenzie Arnold of the like 2023 World Cup. So I'm intrigued to see what they do. Tegan plays for Lyon now. So that's interesting. She's been getting some game time there. So I'm really excited to see what they do, if they'll split time or if one of them's going to play both the games. So who knows? I do love the Aussies. I have a very soft spot in my heart for them. And I think that the England Australia game will be really interesting, and I'm excited to watch it. The last thing that I want to talk about is the Spanish national team because there are two really exciting call ups that have occurred. So, Jenny Hermoso is back with the Spanish national team. She has been a staple for them for so long, and then she fell out of favor with them following everything that happened with the sexual assault that occurred at the World Cup in 2023. She had stopped getting called in for the past like year. It had been like over a year since she'd been called in. And so I'm very, very excited for her to be back. I know how much she means to the Spanish team and Spanish people. And so that's exciting. And then the one that I honestly never thought that I would see, Mappy Leon, is back. She hasn't been with the Spanish national team since 2022 when I think it's 15 of them all like stepped away from the Spanish national team and said, we're not coming back until these things happen. She never felt like they had done the things and met what she wanted them to meet. And so she hadn't been the Spanish national team, which I can only imagine like how difficult that is because Spain has been so successful since 2022, winning the World Cup in 2023, making it to the Euros final in 2025. Like they've been and making it to the semis of the Olympics in 2024. Like they've been so successful and so I would say dominant, but they only won the World Cup. They didn't win the Olympics or the Euros. But anyways, everybody's scared of Spain and they've just been so successful and she hasn't been a part of it. And so I'm excited to see her back. I think she's a complicated figure, as so many people are, because she is not without her own controversy. But I really, really hope that Jenny and Moppy being called back in really signals a real change that's happening within the Spanish Federation and that we can have a little bit of faith that things are really moving in the right direction in a meaningful way for Spain. So I'm really excited. They're playing Sweden twice in the semifinal of the UEFA Nations League, and then Germany is playing France. So I'm really excited to see those games. I think they'll be really, really good, just high caliber quality football. So yeah, I love international break. It's exciting that like England is playing friendlies. I said like the Finalismo, which is when they play the South American champion, which is Brazil right now. They always play like after the Euros. And now I can't remember what the South American, I should know this, and I'm really sad actually that I don't know it. But because the South American championship and the European championship are played in the same summer, they do like the winner of both of those play each other. It's been England and Brazil both times that I'm aware that it's been done. It's becoming like a thing, but I'm excited to watch that. But it's technically a friendly. And with this new like Nations League and the qualifying and all the things, it's been a long time since England's played just like friendlies. They played them, I guess, technically right before the Euros, but that's like build up to a tournament. Those are like different in my opinion, but like a true friendly that like isn't a qualification, isn't Nations League games, like group stage, all of that. So I'm excited to see if Serena tries something different. I don't know if she's going to. I'm intrigued to see what Serena does with the back line, with Leah and Millie both being Millie being retired, Leah being out. I'm also really intrigued to see what the Lionesses do with the captaincy, to see who kind of takes that on. We saw Lucy wearing the armband when Leah wasn't on at the Euros. We've seen Kira wear the armband before, so, and I think Georgia Stanway is also part of the leadership group. Interesting to see if they're going to revamp a leadership group or if they're just going to kind of like proceed with it and assume that it's going to stay the same. So as soon as like Leah gets back, who knows? I think there are a lot of exciting things that I'm watching across this international window. So let me know what you guys are watching. I think that's all I have to say for today. The injuries are driving me crazy. And it's me just like watching. I cannot imagine what these players are feeling. And honestly, I can't even imagine being like a player who's healthy. Just like all of these injuries, like being in the like air, in the water, like there's something in the water. I don't know. I just feel I don't like it. So, wishing everyone a speedy recovery, wishing so many players a happy retirement, wishing everyone a happy and healthy and fun and competitive international window, and then we'll be right back to it. So, I hope everybody has a great rest of their week. Please, if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, get subscribe on YouTube. I think it's called Following the Show on Spotify. Comment. Let me know what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear, what you agree with, what you don't agree with. I don't know. Talk to me because it's just me these days. So, yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week.